This episode brought to you by Leupold Optics. The folks at Leupold have been manufacturing top-notch glass for over 100 years. They're a family-owned business just like mine, and that's why I'm so proud to partner with them to bring you these genuine conversations. If you're in the market for a rifle scope, look at the VX5 HD series. The VX5 HD line of scopes are the workhorse for the backcountry hunter. While you're at it, don't forget to check out the Leupold's full line of range-finding binos, regular binos, and their spotting scopes that are second to none and field tested in some of the hardest conditions on earth. The Leupold Gold Ring is the gold standard. Not to mention, in an extremely unlikely event that your Leupold glass has a hiccup, Leupold offers a lifetime guarantee that won't let you down. Leupold, be relentless. This episode is brought to you by Browning Firearms. Guys, Browning has been manufacturing rifles since 1878 and is still recognized as a classic, traditional company with a long, proud history. If you fast forward 147 years and they still are continuing to deliver high-quality rifles to the market. The newest addition to the Browning lineup is the Browning X-Bolt 2 rifle. The X-Bolt 2 represents the next generation of award-winning bolt-action rifles from Browning. This new rifle is designed with the concept of total accuracy in mind, featuring elements that work together to help you perform at your best, whether at the range or in the field. New features include the Veritech stock, which provides the adjustability of a chassis-style stock while maintaining the traditional Browning appearance without adding extra weight. Check them out at browning.com. Browning, the best there is. Yeah, so Jordan, thanks for coming on, and you have a very interesting story. I've heard a bunch of cool stuff that you've done through your life, and so let's get into Jordan with the draw. And What is the draw? Let's validate that. What is that?
So just a hunt application service, right? We help people apply for hunts all over the country, and then kind of on the back side of that, we're as involved as guys would like us to be in helping get ready for their DIY hunt, or if they're going with an outfitter or whatever their agenda and their goals are, we're as involved as they want us to be through that whole process, from kind of even picking which units and picking which states make the most sense for their goals to, a complete plan that transcends even year to year. Like it's meant to be kind of helping with their progression as a hunter, using applications. So oftentimes, even very quickly on in a discussion is, how often are you looking to do this in a 10-year period? And that answer helps us start to dictate like how aggressive we are being across the different applications and things like that.
So the way I've described it, and I just described it this way on another podcast, is you guys are like tag strategy mentors.
Yeah.
Like somebody that that you guys eat and breathe this every single day, understand the adjustments that each Western state specifically, but you do some, you're doing Texas and some other stuff too.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff up in the Northeast and the Moose stuff. And,
right. So you guys, you're swimming in this every single day. And so if you need somebody or want somebody as a trying to get into tag strategies, or somebody even has a tag strategy and just needs somebody to bounce ideas off.
Sure.
And you guys, it's not just you, but you have a team of people, and you guys limit how many customers each have. So you're not fighting.
Keep the experience better. Like
right.
we're building relationships that center the beginning of the relationship ends up being the application and a need to help in one facet or the other, and then it's hard to maintain relationships if you get too inundated. So we definitely try and create opportunities for our guys to truly foster those relationships by limiting what the amount of customers are trying to handle and things of that nature, and works.
You'll have people that you talk to once a week,
yeah,
and you'll have people that you only talk to them one time before application deadline.
It's very
and everything
real.
In between.
Yep, yeah, and everything in between.
So how does this, what's the, I don't want to pigeonhole you in a cost, but it's not, if you think about it, what you guys charge for that service is is very economical, and I call it the easy button. It's
Yeah.
really easy for, Joe Finicknick to go, hey, I got 12 points in Wyoming now, but what do I do with this now?
Right,
I
for
just
sure.
keep hurting points, but now what do I do?
Yeah, and it's both sides of it. It's a guy that has a dream and he has nowhere to start, and so we're starting with 0 points. And it's also like that's an absolute demographic that exists out there, is these guys who got used to buying the points, and now one reason or the other they have a bunch, and there is a ton of anxiety that comes with when
15 years,
yeah,
20 years.
It's not the money, it's not anything, it's the time. And as mature as the systems have gotten over the years, like this could be it. We get these gentlemen that are in their mid 60s, late 60s, something like that, and they got started kind of a little late in the game anyways, but there they sit with, now they're retired, they're ready, and it's like, oh no, like this is my one. And it really isn't once you start to break it down to them and show them all these other opportunities and things. But for some reason or the other, they grabbed one state or two states, and there they sat stacked with points. And I get it. We're all there. I mean, my dad was visionary. I'm only 42 years old, but I've got over 2 decades worth of points in some different places and species. And so I feel like I can relate to that
Yeah.
It's like this matters. Like everything's at stake right here, and it doesn't necessarily have to have like an once-in-a-lifetime status attached to it. And unfortunately, because of how mature the systems have gotten, sometimes for guys it is. It outside of a lightning strike in another place or whatever, this is this culmination, and everything's at stake. And so
one of the things that I really appreciate about you guys is you'll take it. Because everybody has their own dream, right? And they have their own, skills. They have their own strengths. They have their own weaknesses. And you're able to cater and adjust those by, adjust their strategy depending on all of that stuff. That's what I love. Because I think a lot of guys get wrapped up in, I got to have max points. I don't have max points, so I'm just going to keep buying points.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you can't hunt. There's states like Wyoming that you don't need max points to have an
100%.
unbelievable adventure.
Yeah.
In fact, it's a waste.
Well, I think that
if you
even
have max elk points,
fundamentally, there's a lot of folks that there's a fallacy that exists that the most number of points means it's the best place. And
Right.
Wyoming and Colorado are great examples of the fact that there's a lot of places, particularly in the eastern sides of the state, on both of those, that tend to be maybe more private land and things of that nature, but the number of points is absolutely not a reflection of the quality of animals that they'll find. And so they get in this spot where they probably were planning, because so much is at stake, they were planning on doubling down their investment, going with an outfitter and things of that nature, and yet they're so tunnel vision on those like unobtainable in some instances units and hunts and things of that nature, that they don't know that in a lot of scenarios the points are no longer, again, it's all about how long these systems have been around, that the points are no longer a validator on what is elite and what is not, or what is a solid pick or what is not. There's way more complexities that go into why a unit takes X number of points when another one doesn't. Physicality, access, all of those things play into it.
And sometimes it's just dumb.
Yeah,
sometimes you're like, I don't understand why that takes so many points.
100%.
It's no better than the unit next door.
Very, very often. And my opinion in that is oftentimes it's the public land.
Yeah.
Like if there is enough public land that the DIYer now has a opportunity, it gets hammered, where the neighboring unit might be, 20% public land versus 80% public land, and the hunting is absolute. Maybe even the hunting on the public land is a reflection of the private land because it exists, but it takes half as many points, or 25% as many points. And then the other, like Colorado plays into this. They have so many seasons, right? The second, third, fourth season, like so many guys get tunnel vision on that fourth rifle and whatever unit they're picking, and they don't even realize that for many years now that calendar is rotating, and the opening day happens on X Saturday of the month.
The number of Saturdays.
And there's so many of these units that even there's very many examples where if you burn your burn points on the third season, being that it's a 9-day hunt, that you'll actually get to hunt further into November than the guy that did it the year before in the fourth rifle. And you could have done that like 5 times in the same amount of points. It might take 3 points to draw a third rifle and 15 to draw a fourth. And
yet, the hunting's actually better in third.
Well, or if it's all about being later in the month, there's guys that just mindlessly apply for that fourth season that burn them when that calendar shifted and that fourth season was early, and the following year, the third season shifts back. And in fact, because it's not a 5-day season, it's a 9-day season, so that's like, even just as a general sense, we talk about it all the time. Currently now in 2028, some things are changing in Colorado, but currently, like if you have more than 6 or 7 points for deer, particularly in Colorado, why?
Yeah.
What were you waiting on?
You're gonna lose them.
Yeah. What are you waiting on? Because those premier dates exist in the third season as long as you're watching that jump rope swing. And I mean, we have years where we're pulling back the reins completely on Colorado, point only across the board, outside of maybe some specific hunt that a guy has been dreaming of. But then we'll hit that calendar reset,
right?
And I want an army of guys in Colorado.
Right.
I want everyone to. I don't care if you have 25 points or you have 3 points. Burn them.
Yeah.
The calendar is shifted. Burn them and go to the best hunt that you can with whatever number of points, and don't worry about that point total so much. It's all because Colorado is. I mean, no matter when you choose to burn them, just add in your prayers at night that you're going to get 10 inches of snow while you're there. And it's, whether it's second season or third season or fourth, you're about to have the best deer hunt of your life. And if you show up on fourth rifle with 25 years of waiting and it's 75 degrees outside like it can be, it doesn't matter what unit you're on. Yeah. And you could be in an undersubscribed tag and it drops 12 inches of snow the night before you arrive, and you shoot the biggest deer of your life.
Right.
We see it all the time in Colorado.
So that's what you're doing now. But let's back up and talk about where did you grow up? What did you do sports in high school, and who is Jordan?
Yeah.
To give kind of a history on why I should listen to you with my points.
How do you end up in a chair like this doing podcasts and things like that? For sure. Yeah, my story's kind of crazy. Me and you have talked about it in the past a little bit, but it's I grew up in a small town in central Utah. We had like 200 people there. We had a pop machine and a post office was the only commerce, and like the pop machine was usually broke, right?
and it was at the
post office. Yeah, like we had to go like 12 miles or something like that to get to a gas station, and so culturally inundated with the hunting and the fishing and everything like that, and it was a big part of not only myself and my family's, but it was very encompassing, like my peers, my friends, like we all grew up, like getting your Benjamin pellet gun, and it was like this rite of passage because the Red Ryder wouldn't kill a bird, but that Benjamin would, right? And so it was like a big deal, and everyone's getting guns for Christmas, and like this is just the culture I grew up in, and so I
saw a meme the other day. It was a BB gun and a dead bird, and it said, if you want to know where it all started.
Yeah, exactly, like it is. And we didn't have the iPads, and we didn't have any of that stuff. Like, we were shooting cereal boxes in our backyards. And then when a Tweety bird would land in the apple tree,
he was in trouble.
We would hunt him with like some intensity, really. And if a robin
face
showed up,
paint and everything.
like for sure, if a robin showed up, like that was a big deal. And a magpie was like the holy grail. Like,
that's a stone sheep. No, it's a magpie.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was always there. It was. I've been very fortunate to bring some adults into hunting, and it's very interesting to see them process those moments through an adult eyes. and I really do enjoy that, but I don't relate to that.
Right.
Mine was way further. But I have two older brothers, so and it wasn't even just my dad. It was like my brothers are 8 and 9 years older than me,
wow.
and so like when I started having memories around it, they were starting to participate in all of those things, and so then grew up just like that in that environment. Sports was kind of a thing for me for a little while, but I wrestled in high school a little bit. I was good enough to make the varsity sometimes, but got my butt kicked like so many times, like manhandled, man. Like it's like a trauma spot for me. So, my grandpa. It's super weird. Like, I think it's weird anyways. Like, my grandpa passed away when I was 2 years old.
Okay.
Or 2 to 3 years old. And I actually have, like, still to this day, very clear memories. One of him being alive and then one at his funeral. And he was a World War II veteran. And he shot artillery in the South Pacific.
Oof.
And he, which is kind of weird for an Army guy, right? But that's where he was at. That whole story is a whole nother podcast, what he was doing down there and why he, with the Army, was down there. But that's what he did. And I remember the 21-gun salute. It was extremely impactful even then. And I think very, very early, like I just knew. I knew that I was going to serve. I'm the first one born in the U.S. My dad's from Canada.
No kidding.
Yeah, so my dad's from Canada. My brothers were born in Canada. And my mom, obviously a U.S. citizen, but they had lived in Calgary and moved down in between the time. And for some reason, like, that was never their vision.
Have dual citizenship?
Yeah, both of them do.
You can't get it, though,
I can't get it, no.
Because you weren't born up there.
I wasn't born up there. And but for me, again, like very early on, and it was entirely, I think like a lot of guys, like my desire for military service was because of my grandpa, and my job that I wanted to do was very in line with that. I think it's very generational. I've seen it many times over, and mine was no different. So when I was 18, it was October 10th of 2000, I enlisted. I was going to be a Army National Guard. That's why I enlisted when I did. I was still a senior in high school, and went and took my oath and kind of hung out, honestly, doing little drill stuff with the Guard on the weekends and whatnot. And then August 31st, I flew to Fort Sill, Oklahoma of 2001, and 10 days later, 11 days later, everything changed. And so, you know, to sum up that part of it, instead of 1 week in a month and 2 weeks a year and that whole kind of jazz thing, I ended up
that
on...
pamphlet lied to me.
Yeah, right. I ended up on Title 10 orders 4 years and 7 months of that 6-year commitment.
Really?
I lived out of a backpack and a duffel bag. I got mail in that 6 years in like 18 different places.
Jeez.
And ended up kind of concluding that with a year in Iraq. I was right in Ramadi from June of 05 to July of 06.
Ooh, right
and
in the thick of it.
Yeah, right before the surge, right before we were, I was there shooting fire support during Fallujah. We covered that down and Fallujah is like a small suburb of Ramadi. And so right there
It was a hot place for a long time.
We shot. I did 4 months of patrols in the cities and in the villages and stuff, IEDs, the whole 9 yards during that time. And then for 5 months I got to shoot, or 4 months, 4 months I shot artillery out of Habanaya. And I think for me, like, I think it was a very... conclusion. Like, I trained really hard to do a job for a long time, and getting to shoot that gun like I did, and we shot a lot.
Wow.
Troops in contact. We got rocketed and mortared almost. Like, I kept a journal the entire time I was gone.
Really?
And it was, my dad is the only one who's ever read it, and he believes that it was something between like 310 to 320 of the days, the 368 that I was there, we got hit with rockets and mortars on camp and would shoot. And then we would shoot back. And so pretty crazy year. And but I did feel concluded. Like God bless these guys who do these entire careers and multiple tours and all of that. Mine did feel concluded at the end of that year that I had done what I had set out to do. I was a E5 sergeant, and I decided I was going to start kind of going down a different path, writing some different chapters, and felt very strongly to go live a dream, really. Like those guys and everybody that gives up what they do, like how unfortunate to do that and not come home and like live and be free and do amazing things. So
you get a different perspective on when you come back. You had a different perspective on this is what I fought, and I'm going to go live what I want to do what I want to do.
Yeah, like this is I hate to use a word like entitled. I don't feel like that's the right word to pick there. But an obligation. That's a much better word. An obligation to go do this and be a part of what America is, not just a participant in it,
right.
or a number in the mix. Just be something better. Again, I think I came back and, to be honest, was in a pretty dark place. I think fairly normal. And of all things, like that's why this Western Expo is extremely sentimental to me. Like the first year that this happened, I got a call probably a month before the expo from a guy named Don Pay, and somehow he had got a hold of my name and had understood some stuff that I had done and whatnot. And why me, I still to this day don't know. But on year one of the Hunt Expo, there was this great big concert that they threw with Montgomery Gentry, and Don and some amazing donors and whatnot put together some amazing trips for veterans, and I don't know why, but I was one of them.
That is so cool.
So this is such a sentimental place for me from the year one, which is crazy. Like that was 18 years ago or something like that.
So how long had you been out of the military?
I had been back like 7 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd been back for about 7 months when I came up here. Got put up in the Grand America in like the suite at the top. Got to meet like all sorts of amazing people like that I would never have met. And I think that, honest to God, like it lit, like this event lit a fire in me that I'd never seen anything like it. I'd never seen the industry in a way like this. And there was all these people doing all these things, and everyone was just in it, and they were good people. And I was getting to meet a bunch of them, and I didn't know how exactly right then, but I knew that I wanted to be very involved, and that this was my path. This is what I was going to do. And to be honest, I had got job offers. Like I came home and did what everybody do. I got to reinvent myself. I got job offers at the post office. I got job offers at the Border Patrol because living down in New Mexico at that point, and kind of like couldn't give up on this. And I learned to do some taxidermy work along the way, doing some mentor programs and things like that. And I'm down in New Mexico, and I meet, of all things, this guy selling home loans. And he's selling home loans? Yeah, he's selling home loans. His name's Gilbert Villegas. And he was working part-time at White Sands Missile Range in the biology department. That was what his degree was in. And he's like, oh, wow, you do taxidermy work. You should come out to these oryx hunts and set up a booth or a shop. And there's all these once-in-a-lifetime oryx hunters going out in the field and then coming back.
So for the audience that don't know, let's explain what the oryx hunt is.
Sure.
Because there's there's guys in my own circles that don't know these exist.
Right, exactly. So in 1968, the governor of New Mexico, Governor Bullock, put together a program that the idea was to create hunting opportunities in spaces in New Mexico that didn't historically hold big game animals. So the guy was like an insane hunter. If you ever get a chance to go through his museum in Farmington or Bloomfield, New Mexico, it's like this guy had traveled. He'd seen it all. He's like got the only skin mount of a killer whale I've ever seen in my life. Like,
no kidding.
I swear to God, it's amazing. and everything else you could ever dream of.
I don't think you picked that up at the rummage sale.
No, it's amazing. And so the guy had such a vision, and he saw what was happening in Texas and all this opportunity and how successful these transplants were, and was like, I want this for everyone. Amazing visionary. And so he introduced 4 species to New Mexico back in the 60s. The gemsbuck from the Kalahari, the Persian ibex from Iran, the aoudad from the Barbary Coast there, and then kudu, as a matter of fact. Also, the kudu unfortunately didn't take. They were susceptible to some disease that beef carry.
Okay.
And that's why they didn't ever take off. I have pictures from the press, or the original pictures from the press release that I got from the Albuquerque Journal, showing the kudu and the oryx in the horse trailers.
Kudu was part of that. I thought there was only 3 species.
I have pictures showing that, like, when they did it.
Oh, that would have been wild.
Can you imagine?
Oh,
right. I don't know
gosh.
why I feel so bad that they didn't, because the oryx is such a success story.
Right.
Maybe that's why it's like it worked. Why it wouldn't?
Why didn't it have been?
Why can't I get more? Why couldn't it have been more?
They're such a cool animal.
Yeah,
they're like hunting mule deer.
Oh, it's just amazing. So. That's what, and so then fast forward, so they had 9 of them. They had a breeding program because the federal law wouldn't allow them to release native-born animals out into the wild. So they had a breeding program, and in 7 years they released 93 of the gemsbuck that we call oryx onto White Sands Missile Range. And that population's kind of fluxed up and down a few times over the years, but on average, the herd that covers a lot of southern New Mexico, they assume it is in that 5,000 to 6,000 animals. Wow. Like, it's lots of.
Do they compete with anything that's
nothing? Nothing.
Really?
There is they
don't even compete with desert sheep or anything.
No, because it's bizarre where you'll find an oryx, like clear up in those mountains. But
really?
For many years most would have argued that San Andreas was the top destination for desert sheep in New Mexico, and they're the ones that were living with them always, right there. Definitely don't. The elk aren't there. There is some, but not as a general rule. The deer, all things considered, went away in southern New Mexico, but very, very much later. 30 years later is when the blue tongue came through and wiped out all of that. But the oryx has just continued to thrive. They don't get diseases. They have very little natural predator stuff. So it's entirely managed through hunting, and it's such an incredible, unique opportunity that the state created, and his vision is like in full view now, and it worked.
So let's go back to taxidermy.
Yeah,
so you're doing some taxidermy.
So I'm doing taxidermy. So I meet this guy that's selling home loans, and he's like, "You should come out." Long story short, the first time I went out, I borrowed a generator. I had a light. I had this ridiculous engine hoist thing that I was trying to make into a hoist, and I ended up there was 13 businesses set up outside the gate. This was not a new idea. Right?
13 doing what?
Doing taxidermy.
Same thing?
Yep, taxidermy meat processing. And so I didn't know what else to do, so I just kind of sat there and waved at everyone nicely as they would come out the gate, and all these guys are super busy and whatnot. And the one thing Gilbert had told me that no one else was doing is at the time you couldn't take cameras into White Sands, right? And so I put up a little sign that said, "I'll watch your camera." And what most people don't know is on that first hunt, I didn't have the money to get home. I was out of gas. I had nothing.
You're kidding me.
I'd put everything I had. I had brought a couple bags of chips to eat, and I was just trying. And A taxidermist from Wyoming actually stopped that morning, handed me his camera. Mind you, at the time I didn't know where we were at. It was like a little sign, but he handed me his camera. Well, he killed a really great oryx pretty early in the morning. He did not need my services. He was a taxidermist, but he gave me $20
to watch the camera.
Yeah, as a tip, and I knew I was going to make it home. I think my confidence level went up a little bit, and at the very end of the night, like lots of oryx die, and we call it the evening rush. And the very last guy out of the gate that probably had like the hardest evening of everyone's busy. All these businesses, oryx everywhere, hanging on hoists and everything, and he's just wiped out, and I'm the only one that didn't have one. So I ended up, his name is Robert Duran. He's from Hatch, New Mexico. I still remember his name to this day. Stopped and was going to let me skin it for a few bucks. And before he left, he decided to let me mount it. And he gave me $400 in cash as a deposit.
Wow.
And the same exact story happened the next night with a gentleman from Sparks, Nevada. His name's Ty Metcalf. I've never talked to those two men since that day, 16 years ago, other than I got their mounts done and moved on, and I still remember both of their names very vividly because
it was a turning point.
Yeah, it was a huge. I knew I could do it, so I went home and I got more set up, and I got a bigger sign for cameras, and I did all this stuff. And the next hunt was like 2 weeks later, and I ended up I took in 4 heads that weekend, and it was the most money I'd ever seen in my life in one time. And then it was the break. It was like the summer break, and I went and I got a trailer and I got a reel hoist and I got everything set up. And the next year I took in 150 oryx to mount.
Oh my gosh!
And I was full time, and I shut everyone down. No one else, even me and my buddy that did meat processing, and we worked together, were the only ones out there, and we stayed out there for like 8 years together.
What was the pivotal thing that changed?
The cameras. I would get up at 4 a.m. and light my fire and have a giant sign that said, "I'll watch your camera," when everyone else was asleep, and I would put them in my truck because I didn't have anywhere else to safe, and I would use orange flagging tape to write their name on it, and I would throw them in the truck, and it made them stop to talk to me
on the way out.
They had to stop, and I had my chance. And
jeez.
And so that evolved into, like, I wrote a book one time. It's like a 60-page book called The New Mexico Oryx Hunting Handbook, and I would sell those before the hunt to guys that went through all the details of what to expect and how it all works. And then I started doing seminars on Friday nights before the hunt, and what I also did was I was working with the outfitters. They got to know that I would be there, and they could lean on me for all sorts of things, to include even like a Sunday morning. Like, they got to check out of their hotel room, and my whole cargo trailer would fill up with luggage. Yeah, so that they could check out, and we just problem solved, just like anything I could do to make their life easier and lock them into coming and seeing me before they left. And
the goal was
now I have my moment. Yeah, now I have my moment. And what are you doing? Who's mounting it for you? It was like, it blew up. It was the most amazing thing, and I got to know many outfitters. I started guiding a lot because of the relationships that I was making out at the oryx hunts, and that took me to many places all over the western United States guiding, and because guys would meet me and they're like, "Hey, bring your hoist," and some of them right out the gate, especially later on, but some of them early on I was just there to pick. I got 25 antelope hunters in camp this week. You want to show up and skin for us? And then it evolved into the guiding, and then that was kind of the next chapter for me. Like, I had a bunch of employees, and we were doing mounts, and everything was going good, and to be honest, I was a little bit in the dark, on and off. I needed my time out in the woods. I needed that, and I needed to be able to introduce myself to people without them knowing my history, and unless I wanted them to, right, and some of that stuff. But I got to where I was guiding like too much, maybe like 200 days a year. And then the taxidermy business started failing a little bit because that was where my focus was at, right? And that's where I wanted to be. And I'm meeting all these, like, guiding is the most amazing thing if people will, like, grab it, because I grew up in a town of 200 people, and I'm sitting in a truck with somebody who's made a lot of really good decisions in their life, obviously.
Yeah.
And I never wasted that. And a lot of that came from some mentors early on that were like, don't waste this. And some of the most amazing relationships that I have are because me and a guy that I would have never had an audience with had a common goal, and we had 5 days to grind it out together, and then we accomplished that goal. And I would even argue, I've thought about this a lot, like the violent nature of the goal in a way also sears that the bond that is created. And so some of my mentors, like all my mentors, came through hunting in one way or the other, and again, guys that like would never give a guy like me an audience are now taking calls at 11 o'clock at night because I got like a personal issue going on that I need somebody that processes information better than myself to look at for 2 seconds.
Somebody that's making good decisions and is so good at making good decisions it comes second nature to them.
Yes, it's not even situation. They don't even need to they're not processing it over a period of time. No. You're telling them what's going on, and they're giving you an answer because it's just how their brain works.
Right.
And I think guiding was like such an incredible thing for me to do, and then get the right mentors early to tell me not to waste those moments and foster those relationships. And so fast forward, and I meet my wife. Well, it wasn't my wife, obviously. I meet who became my wife, and we ended up having a baby together. And now this time commitment exists, and I want it. I'm happy about it. Like I had hunted Africa, I'd hunted Alaska, Canada. I'd just been chasing hard for many years, and now I was good. I was ready for this new phase of my life, and yet I had really taken my eye off the ball with the taxidermy and whatnot. I needed something different, and it's weird. God puts you in like these amazing plans that are so complex and they make no sense whatsoever until one day all of a sudden they do, and my phone rings and it was Cabela's calling, and Cabela's, long story short, offered me a job as a consultant within their booking agency and their tags program. And I really it's such a weird thing to like think of the build up to that, of where I ended up interviewing against some amazing people. At that point, my friends, like guys that I knew in the industry, and how I came through that and ended up again being one that made it. I think a lot of guys could do what I did if they got the chance, and I don't know why I did, but God knew I needed to reinvent myself again if I was going to be a husband and a dad, which was extremely important to me, and yet stay here in this space that I loved very, very much. It needed to be something like that. And so the door opens. They were using words I didn't understand at the time, like insurance and retirement, and I was like, "What is any of that?"
Days off.
Yeah, what does this even mean? Like a vacation day, like actual days to vacation. We jumped. We pulled up in New Mexico, ended up in Sidney, Nebraska. I was there for a little over 4 years, kind of through the Bass Pro Cabela's transition. And as a lot of people know, like everything kind of changed right then for Cabela's, entirely changed. And our, what we did and who we were
even
changed.
The stores changed.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was from top to bottom in that organization.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Hornady. They make some of the best, most accurate, dependable ammo on the planet. No matter if you're coyote hunting or plink and steel or hunting big game out west or even going to Africa, they make a bullet or an ammo just for you. Some of the most accurate and dependable ammo on the planet. Also, check out my podcast with Steve Hornady and learn about ammo as well as their story and some funny anecdotes from Steve. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Silencer Central. Silencer Central, thank you for supporting us. If you would like to support Silencer Central, if you have any interest in a silencer, which I encourage because it is a game changer in the field, check out silencercentral.com. They will walk you through the paperwork online, as well as they can ship that silencer directly to your doorstep. So check them out and tell them Ike sent you. So how long was it from the $400 deposit to when you went to Cabela's? What's that time frame?
It would have been
Years?
12 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking like 3 or 4.
No, it was like a
12-year period.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe my math's right. Yeah, 12-year period.
Oh my gosh.
Right there.
So you got a ton of experience stuff down your in the 12 years, and then went to Cabela's for 4.
Yeah, and ended up there, and
what were you doing for them?
tags primarily.
Okay.
Like that's what my dad was such a visionary. Like I'm sure your dad was too. Like I grew up kind of in that central Utah where that was kind of the beginning of a lot of that stuff, where guys were paying attention. And my dad, I think, saw how much I loved it and was like, well, if you're ever going to shoot a sheep someday, I better start investing in this now. And I don't think he intended to like pass like a hobby of his on to a point where like I'm like, well, that's just all I do. Like this is my whole life. Is it? I think he would have done it differently if he could do it again. But I'm very fortunate. I got started very early in the application when most kids weren't. My dad was in, but when most states weren't giving breaks on licenses and all that, he still saw that this was my life. This is what was very important to me, and so. I came in not only with a lot of boots on the ground experience in a lot of places and a lot of things, but also I was stacked with points. I had not nearly the level now as a professional, but I had a pretty strong understanding of a lot of how it worked in a lot of places. You'll appreciate this little asterisk story, right? So I have my kid, right? And money's tight. And this would have been in like 2013. I'm looking at my sheep points in Wyoming, and I had one less than max at the time. And the tag at the time I think was like $2,307, right? And then I knew that if I was going to go, I was going to end up needing to go with an outfitter, and it was like $8,500 even then. All
plus the tips and everything.
Yeah, plus all the tips and everything like that.
$12,000 into it.
So. I'm literally in a financial spot where it's like a can of formula or a sheep point in the summer, back when it was like $100. Yeah. And I'm like, I did what I think anyone would do. I bought the formula, right? And I was like, well, I'll get it back next year. Like I'm going to miss my point this year, but I got 2 years. I'll get it back. Well, the circumstances were the same the following year. This would have been in 2012. Okay. And I just did not see a vision or a plan where that was ever going to work out, and I still needed the $100 for the formula.
Oh, no.
And I lost them. And like 3 months later, Cabela's called.
Oh no!
and I would have.
You walked away from 21 points.
Yeah. And I don't. I wish I did it different, but I don't. I know I would have done the same thing again.
Yeah.
And yet,
circumstances.
but circumstances were what they were. But I like you want to talk about a sheep tag slipping through your fingers? Like I did it. I was one of those few that had played the game in the right time at the right place, that it wasn't a luck thing for me. And yet, but God has a plan. He knew that, whatever it was. And so Cabela's would have like paid for the tag and the outfit and like all, like it would have been, like I would have did it, and instead it slipped through my fingers. So I figured you and your audience might appreciate, like I can appreciate like so many angles of the game. Like I can appreciate the time, the money constraint of it, and that matters sometimes. I can appreciate the time. I can appreciate watching stuff slip through. I mean, how many guys are out there right now that with some of the law changes in Wyoming that just watched their opportunity slip through their fingers because a law got changed? Mine was a little bit different, but I can relate to that. I know exactly what that feels like, to watch an opportunity just get pulled away from you with no control. It doesn't feel like. Now, hindsight, I should have called my dad and been like, I need $100.
Yeah, Dad, will you please buy me a point?
I'm 30 years old and I've got a kid, and it's like, no, this is be a grown up here.
Right.
Anyways, so that's an asterisk story. So anyways, Bass Pro buys Cabela's, right? Everything changes, and I decide I'm going back to New Mexico. That's where my wife's from. That's where she wants to be. And my best friend Jason calls, and he's like, "Let's do this. You love this. I know you love it, and let's start something ourselves." And more or less gave me the confidence that it was like, I will make sure you don't starve to death while we do this, while we get this off the ground, which I think is like what an humbling, the whole, like, you get lucky. Like, I don't know if luck had anything to do with that, but I can tell you, like, still an extremely humbling thing to have somebody be like, I believe in you, and we're going to do this. And whatever you need until you don't, I've got it. And I mean, what a credible thing, awesome. Right? To have somebody like believe that much. And so I came home, I started guiding immediately again. Like, that was my way of getting a bridge of the gap. I started writing a lot, which was super. The more you know me, that's like the weirdest part of my story, is that I was writing a ton of content.
Do you enjoy writing?
I do, actually. I am not, like, I write like I talk. So it's like, it's a weird, I don't know if it's received as well, because like my dad says I talk real lazy.
Is he a teacher or something?
No, I think it's the Canadian, right? Like there's like a properness to it. So I don't know exactly, but I did enjoy the writing until the draw honestly became too consuming to really keep up with that. And that's kind of like the conclusion of the story. We're 6 years deep now. I've got like the most amazing group of people surrounding me, and it just, like, God keeps putting like incredible personalities in front of me at these like these exact right times, and I've always felt like I'm good at building relationships, and I feel like I've done the same with those, and I've been so fortunate that I'm getting those moments with these guys, and they seem to, like, my team, like, they see my vision, they see what I'm trying to accomplish. And
we spent some time with them last night. It was fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's a great team, and it's you can tell you guys have been in the trenches together and learned, and
it's a hard thing to ask a grown man to come into an idea.
Yeah.
It's another thing to have a job lined up for somebody. It's another thing to have a guy with a family to say, I need you to believe in this vision that I've got, in this idea, because that's all it is, really.
Right.
And then to watch them, I tell them they drank the Kool-Aid. Like they're drinking the Kool-Aid.
We're going to the mothership.
Yeah, and then watch them succeed to your shoulder to shoulder through all sorts of crazy stories in the first 6 years. Like, it is, apps are a complex monster.
They are.
And then keeping up with, it started with hundreds of people, and then it's morphed into thousands of guys, and all of what that takes. And even someone like myself that I feel like has a very strong academic background in it, that doesn't matter about running a business.
Right.
And finding success within that. You can be academically sound as you want. And so there was this whole big learning curve.
Right.
And the taxidermy, honestly, probably was one of the biggest blessings, because at a very minimum, I can tell you when I closed that shop up and finally wrapped it all up, I was so aware of what I wasn't good at, that this go around, those were like key points to attack from the word go.
Right.
Like there was never I can handle this. I knew after all those years I couldn't handle it. That's not me. I'm not built for that. I will not prioritize that piece of the puzzle as much as this, and that doesn't mean that this doesn't have to happen. And yet if you leave me to it, it won't, because I will constantly prioritize differently. And so then we started building a team around those from the beginning, around those things that I was very aware of myself, and it gave us a chance. And now it's so much simpler. Like, it's so, the processes exist, the funnel is created, and
when you guys built a hell of a system. It's not just your guys, it's your processes and your software that you built to keep track of all this stuff and to predict this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing. And then, we came down. One of my guys and I came down. Was it last spring?
Yeah, last spring, I think. Yeah, or summer, somewhere in there. Yeah, before hunting season.
Yeah. Well, I think it was last spring because I was busy after. Maybe. Anyway,
you went to Africa and all that. Yeah.
But it was just awesome to watch and to see, and I think there's a lot of people. I firmly believe this because I run in a lot of circles, and I have friends that would do this. They just want somebody to bounce an idea off, or they want, hey,
I got it 50 times in there today.
Go put my go put a strategy together. I'm busy, running my electrical business, or I'm busy running my oil field business, or I'm busy just turning wire nuts.
It's very much a service-oriented business, and that's how we look at it. That's how, I can mow my yard. I've done it many times, very practiced. I promise if I pay someone who's very good at mowing my yard, when it's done, it looks better than what I'm capable of producing. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I could literally do it with the same lawnmower.
I agree.
But his finished product, because he's a professional at it, ends up being different than what mine is. And I don't have time to take care of my yard, so I pay someone to do it because I still want to enjoy my yard. I want to be in it, and I feel like as an entity, we fit in a very similar box. We provide a service, and we're damn good at it because we should. That's who we are. That's our identity. We find angles and we find ideas to continue to try and problem solve within this complex thing that's been created over the years.
And everybody's yard's different.
Yes.
What my
Great
strengths
point.
and weaknesses
Exactly.
are, and what my goals are different than your goals.
Exactly.
And being able to talk to somebody that understands that and allow me to hit that easy
and your
button.
goals inevitably will progress and change
100%.
throughout the process, and having someone that can help you quarterback that and almost know before you do that there will be a progression and that there will be a shift and start addressing that early on. It really I love it. I love the game so much. I see dreams come true. I see people do things that they thought were not possible because of where they lived and their peer groups and things.
Right.
It seems so far out to them, and they come and they don't have to have success with some gigantic old age animal to feel like they've checked this life box. And I've also been there when it truly is the elite. It is that 1 in a million moment for a guy. And
would you call it lightning strike?
We call them lightning strikes. Yeah, when you draw a tag that is less than 1% chance, we call them lightning strikes. And to be a part of that, it's the fun. There's just this moment, right? Like you get the email from a state, and you see it pop, and you know it's a result, and your stomach turns, and you get that what if oh my God, and then inevitably you open it and it's unsuccessful again. There is joy in that moment if you have this proper context about what the game you're playing and all of that, and then the one time that it's not it's one of the coolest things out there. So I love the game. I love watching people. I love watching clients. I've been consulting now for 11 years full time, and 6 with the draw. I have guys. I had one of the gentlemen that was there with us last night. His name's Rich Lauer. Watching Rich come from 6 years ago to a guy that wanted to get started with this to, I would argue, I have the most amazing deep conversations, and that's not for everybody, but it was for Rich. He wanted to learn, not just have someone execute a thing, and watching his progression to becoming, I would say, a subject matter expert. Above 80%, 90% of the guys, and so his progression went down as much an academic path as it has been with some of the animals that he's taken along the way. And I love it. I geek out watching guys and what they become and what their goals and their progression leads them into. It's such a fun part of it.
So, obviously we talked about the tag strategies.
Yep.
We talked about you guys actually do work with some select outfitters if that's the guy's
prerogative.
Prerogative. That's what they're hoping to do.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about what were you calling it? The float?
The float.
Yeah. What's that? What's that all about?
So it's, again, we're an app service. So our goal is to solve problems within app service. We're not an information source. You can't come to thedraw.com and look up units and things of that nature. We stay right in our lane, and one of the things that we found out there is that these individuals and or families struggle with a few of these states like New Mexico and Wyoming and sheep, moose, and goat in Idaho, that those states require that money up front just to get your name in the hat.
Yeah.
And they can be.
It's not cheap for those that don't know.
I mean,
it's what, $3,200 in Wyoming?
Well, that's just for the sheep, right? So
Right.
if we're dropping bison and moose and mountain goat in there, it's over $10,000.
And you pay that in March, and you don't get it back till May.
Right, and equal odds are the best odds, right? No matter how low they are. If you have the same chance as everybody, so you look at the bison and just the bison and the goat with no point system in Wyoming, and you're over 10, right there. It's actually almost 15 now that I think about it, because they went up to what's the bison now? It's like,
I don't know.
7,500, I think, or
right.
something like that.
It's a lot of money.
And we're just trying to play the game. I know in New Mexico, it's $8,242 to put in for all species up front. So, and I don't know a single guy out there that's not ready to spend $3,000 on a sheep tag if he drew it.
Right.
I know lots of guys that don't like the idea of spending $3,000 and tying it up for a chance to draw it.
Right.
And so we created the float, and essentially we're bankrolling the money for folks. We charge 9% of the cost of the tag to get your name in the hat, and we put those large fees on our card during that process. So for less than 10% of what that tag costs, now you're in it. And if you couple that with our Kids Apply Free program, then all of a sudden a family of 4, instead of tying up $34,000 in New Mexico to be trying to draw, the
cost them $900.
Yeah. Yeah, and instead of it being, it's going to cost them $850 to put in for elk. That money's going to go away, whether it's my card or your card. You're going to be out $850, and if you did that for all 4 kids as a non-resident, that's $3,200 that you're going to tie up right there just to try for an elk. Or with our program, you have 32 chances to draw, and I promise you, I've seen it time and time again. You start throwing that many tickets in that many buckets, somebody gets to go hunting. Mm-hmm. Somebody's going hunting. And what it could be, it's anybody's guess, but someone is going to draw a hunt and have a chance to go and create an experience for themselves. And so that's what the float program was all about, was again, now obviously they square up with us at the end when the tag is drawn on whatever they happen to draw, but for a fraction of the cost, they're in those pools that they should be in, especially in states like New Mexico where there is no point system. It's not 30 years deep. You're not behind a curve. You have the same chance as everyone from year one, and that matters as well. Like that creates opportunities.
So let's talk about a little bit more about Jordan and why I would call you. Because you're not the only game in town, but why would I call you versus everyone else? I mean, your story is unbelievably compelling, and you can tell you have a passion for it, and I can tell the audience that his crew has a passion for it, but you're a hunter. Yeah. You're not a paper pusher that sits in an office somewhere and just does what somebody does. You're not pushing this as a means to get outfitters that are in your back pocket filled. You're doing it for the right reason, and that is just to help people. Yeah. Why do you hunt? Why does Jordan hunt then? Why did you kill that big horse?
Right. Like it's a great question. I knew I was going to get one of these, and I've been nervous about it. I think we live in this world right now that does want to. Maybe for social reasons or something like that, they want to put that why in some boxes, right? And we see it in a lot of places. And I don't think there's a bad one. I want to make that very clear. I don't think that there is those boxes that are bad in any way, shape, or form. But I've thought about this, and I've been asked it a time or two. And unfortunately, I think that my answer ends up being a little bit empty. But my soul requires it. I don't know why. I know from the time I got my BB gun that I didn't want to do anything else. I see it in one of my kids, not all 3. I see it in one of my kids that he has a similar pull that that he can't not do it. It is. I base so much of what my year looks like around those moments, and my personal progression has actually pushed me into a place where I'm not the one on the trigger very often anymore. Mm-hmm. I've got a 12-year-old that has luck like no one I've ever met in my life at drawing tags, and I've got my little girl that killed her first javelina and her first deer at 9 years old this year. And my personal progression has become very centered around the passing this torch and lighting this fire with them. But mine is very. Mine has a hard. I have a hard time putting it in one place or the other, because I just know that it's required of me. Yeah. I have something in my soul from the beginning has told me that this is who I am. This is my identity. And
so what are you going to be thinking about? God willing, you have a deathbed and you don't get hit by a bus as you were crossing the street tonight. But what are you going to be thinking about? What are the things that are going to be really important in Jordan's life that you'll be focused on in the last moments?
It's like, I think maybe for some that's like a super clear answer. Again, I would tell you that I'm going through even a bit of a shift in that a little bit myself right now, and I love this so much. I really do. It is who I am and all of that. But I also think that I hit a spot in the last 2 years where I've had some success, and I've been in the craziest rooms with the craziest, rubbing shoulders with all these people, and I will tell you that there was a moment in the last couple of years where I decided I needed more. I wanted somebody to have something else to say at my funeral about who I was and what I did and what I left here. And the last 2 years, I've gotten extremely involved in some very specific veteran outreach organizations, and I guess currently right now that's probably what my answer would be is that if tomorrow night I was on that deathbed, I would hate that I didn't get to do what I wanted to do in that veteran space, and linking and showing the world that what so many of us already know, that the outdoors and the community within the outdoors is healing veterans. We're saving lives, literally, not figuratively. And I'm just getting started with. I've got to do some amazing things, and I think it really lit a fire under me.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about Normandy. That is a crazy story.
It is
Speaking of being in the right place and rubbing elbows with the right people.
Exactly right. So hunting led back to that, right? I meet a guy 2 years ago that I hadn't seen in a long time at the Western Expo. We hit it off, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, you're doing all these crazy things." And long story short, he introduces me to a group. It's called the Best Defense Foundation. And Donnie Edwards, he's an NFL player for a long time, has an incredible career history. Him and his wife started this organization, and they were in June of this last year. Apparently the news kind of here in the States kind of showcased that there was these I don't know what they were calling them, hero flights or something of that nature. Well, Donnie is a major part of that. I got invited to take a 98-year-old veteran, his name was Chet Cochin, back to Normandy with 47 others. There was 48 total World War II vets that we took back to Normandy, and we spent 12 days with them. We flew a Delta Airlines charter flight right into the town of Normandy. And from that point on, we went and saw Carrington, and we saw Omaha Beach and Utah Beach, and we saw all of the beginnings of what happened during World War II. And I was in at a Carrington parade with a guy that was in the 101st Airborne that jumped out of a plane that night. It just like Band of Brothers, like that guy. I met him. And he's amazing, and everyone should know his story and what he did. And I met Chet, and Chet was with the 83rd Infantry Division, and 12 days. We slept in the same room. we were attached to the hip. Me and him were tied together the entire time. And Chet was 18-year-old draftee, landed on Utah Beach on D1, and spent 53 days on the front lines fighting through the hedgerows until he eventually ended up getting shot in the neck and got hit with a grenade, got captured by the Germans, and through a crazy story made it back into U.S. Care and back to England.
Oh my gosh.
And with that dude, I got to wheel him down in front of like the entire NATO dignitary, and like with tears in my eyes and his, watch him personally thank Prince Williams for what England did for him back 80 years ago. And he was in an English hospital and getting his throat fixed and his neck and all of these things. And like watching this guy have this full circle moment to get to do that at a place like that. And those moments were amazing. The stories, like it would get like quiet after dinner, or we'd be on a long bus ride, and one of these guys, like one or the other, would like something would spark and they would start telling you a story. And every night we would have like some formal speeches and whatnot, but watching those guys just impromptu like tell you this story that they hadn't told very often, and they struggled through it, anything from like finding concentration camps and what that was like as 19-year-old kids, and then what it was like, on Omaha Beach at D-Day with I can't believe I'm going to forget his name. I feel so bad. Dickey was on a naval troop carrier that he made like 6 trips to the beach that day with loads of guys, and his firsthand accounts of that. And I wanted to be doing things in the veteran space for sure. I already was. We've got this veteran oryx hunt that we're doing down in New Mexico that's amazing. 85 veterans in one weekend all at the same time with a once-in-a-lifetime tag in their pocket. There's nothing like that happening in the country right now. We're doing our own things, but then to see that on a scale like that has lit this like massive fire in me that I want to do more. I want to be around these guys. I want to hear the stories. I want someone to tell my story later.
Do you think
that those guys matter to me?
Do you think those guys opened up to you and the other 48 other veterans? Do you think they opened up because they knew you guys were vets and they knew that
they were in a safe space?
Yeah. And no matter what you said,
they would check.
Yeah.
There was multiple times where guys would check and they'd be like, "You guys are all combat vets here," and I mean, I'm just me. Like I got Navy SEALs and Green Berets and like just some of the most amazing humans. And no one's ever talking. I didn't share my stories. They didn't share. No one cared about your story. Like you're sitting in a room full of World War II vets, and we're just there to take care of them. But they would. Those World War II vets would check, and they would vet like. And once they knew that whole group was that, then they would start talking.
Bands of brothers.
And they would need to, and they would let some steam off on something that they probably hadn't talked to many or no one about.
Wow.
And it was extremely humbling, and it makes me really sad that the world is losing daily the last firsthand accounts of that, and it's very frustrating that as the world is losing those firsthand accounts, once again we have this unrest in Eastern Europe, like their lives and what they did shook waves for decades. And as that flame is burning out, all of a sudden, here we have this unrest again, because the world and those men knew what happened, and on all levels, in all countries, fought to stop that from happening again. And again, as that generation is now dwindling out, here we sit again, and
Isn't that crazy how humans do that? I mean,
no,
that's not the only example.
100%.
That goes all the way back to Adam and Eve.
Correct. It's unfortunate beyond, like, the audacity of it. If you would have told me when I was in 8th grade and learning about all of this stuff from the first time, that in my lifetime I would see stuff and the unrest again in those places, I would have told you, you're obviously asleep in class. You're not paying attention.
Yeah.
This, the war to end all wars.
Yeah.
And
we're gonna learn from this.
Yeah.
Dang it, we're gonna learn.
We're gonna learn from this. And if you would have told me in my 40s that I would have seen stuff happening on a world scale again, I would have told you, you're absolutely incorrect, and you're not understanding how the magnitude of this. And yet, as humanity, it's so unfortunate.
Crazy.
But yeah, that's my one right now. I don't know if that could change again at some point or whatnot, but right now, like, I feel like I'm doing so much here with the draw and the good and all of that, but I would love for there to be another chapter about who I was.
So the guys that are out there, obviously we talked about the draw, and I think there's a ton of my audience that really needs to get involved in that. But what can they do on this veteran side to help? Is it donations? Is it is it hey, connections? You need to connect to this guy, or
sure.
What's the easiest way for them to be part of it?
Like, I think I would almost go back to like an individual level. Like everyone has a vet now. Everyone knows a vet. And that vet.
Isn't I hear a statistic that there's more veterans alive in our society right now than ever in history?
We're like the 3rd or 4th largest demographic in the country right now. Like, everybody knows a vet, and I think that I can talk from personal experience that when someone thanks you, there's an awkwardness to that, and there can be, unfortunately, some guilt associated with the veteran when they do that. But I would say start there. Thank them.
Yeah.
Tell them it mattered. And and if your desire transcends that, then God bless you. But if that's all you did was tell the guy at work that that what he did mattered, like, then we can start like really fixing. And then if he's willing to, let him talk. And let him decompress and let him let off some steam and all of those things. And that would be my that. And again, if you have the financial capacity, if you have a bigger reach or a taller soapbox, by all means, like, great. God bless you for that. But if all you did was tell your family member or your coworker or whatever it is that, like, this mattered to you, like, that everyone can do that. Yeah.
You're right. I do a lot of thanking the vets, and it's 99% of the time it's awkward.
It is. I can tell you from the veteran side of it, it's awkward for me too, but it doesn't get forgotten either.
No.
Like,
it means a lot.
It does. The awkwardness comes from a place that you don't feel deserving, which is like another layer of the onion that deserves getting peeled back. But it doesn't mean that person didn't tell you that and it does mean in the dark of the night it means something.
Yeah, for a long time I worried that it came from, it was awkward because of something that I did, or it was awkward because how I did it, or it was awkward. And then I have my best friend is a vet, and we got probably too many whiskeys in us one night and got down. We were actually packing meats.
Can happen.
We were making meat sticks.
It can definitely happen.
And I just flat out asked him, I go, why is it awkward? He said the exact same thing he did. He said, I'm not deserving. Yeah, I signed up for it, but I signed up for it.
Right.
I didn't get told to go do it.
Right.
I knew what I was getting into.
Yep. 100%.
Now, I may not have understood it, but I assumed I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah, no, for sure. There is a undeserving aspect that creates a lot of the awkwardness, and that's where I think the more often it happens, just like anything, it helped. Like, I met a guy a while ago, and it was at a veterans group of things, and there was some absolute tip of the spears walking around. Like, these guys were just assassins
Yeah.
for our cause, right? And I met this guy, and I overheard him telling like 3 or 4 people that he had never done anything heroic, and he had never, and his 4 years that he had done, he just, and don't thank me, and he was extremely boisterous about his awkwardness, about getting thanked and everything. And I pulled him to the side, and I was like, "Bud, why do you say that? What makes you?" And he's like, "Well, I never did anything heroic. I don't want them to think that I'm something different." And I said, "How old were you when you swore your oath?" And he was 18. And I said, "So you're telling me at 18 years old, there's nothing heroic about a kid swearing to God he would die for it?
Yeah.
That's not heroic?
Yeah.
Are you shitting me?"
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to choose what Uncle Sam's job for you is. Once you swear to God, you'll die for it. But at 18 years old, that's not heroic.
Because what you chose could be the worst job in the world, or it could be the best,
you don't get to
job.
choose.
You don't know.
You don't know. You don't get to choose from that point forward what your role in the grand scheme of it is. Yeah. And so that would be a message that I would give to I don't care what you did. I don't care what your job was. If at some point you swore to God that you would die for it, well, then you're a hero to me.
Yeah. The other thing I told him is, I think maybe it's awkward because not enough people do it.
Yeah,
because if a lot of people did it, it would become normal.
Yep.
And he does this.
You could also
shtick,
couple it with, "I'll buy you a beer," just for. I mean, the case.
Yeah. I mean,
that helps with the awkwardness. Just throw that little piece out there, like, "Hey, thanks for your service. Here's a beer." Like, who doesn't like that? That always melts the awkwardness.
Now he says, "Oh no, thank you. You paid for a vacation in the South Pacific."
Yes, right, exactly.
Like on a boat. Congratulations.
Yes.
Hot boxing.
Oh God.
Or hot rack.
Can you
is what
imagine?
they call it.
Oh, those poor bastards.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing within the veterans. I don't care what your job was. Like, I promise there was somebody else that at that oryx hunt in New Mexico, like my job this year, I decided I wanted to, so we're trying to build some content to spread awareness, help the fundraising and all that. And so I stayed back. I didn't guide one. I usually do. That's my favorite, that personal connection. But I stayed back and I did interviews with these guys before they were going and as they were coming out. And I was asking them like what they did and what they, while they were in, and all the and a few other questions, and I met a guy that long story short, he was like, "We are soldiers," like Mel Gibson, first Cav, door gunner in a Black Hawk, and that was his job, and it was like jaw dropping to me. I was like, "Oh my God, like you're one of them." Like to me, that's just like superstardom. Like and I felt really bad. Like the guy, like this, that was like the first formal thing anyone had ever done to thank him for his service. And we had the F-18 flyovers. We did it like we're trying hard to do something really cool for these guys. And Sunday, like towards the end of the day, this guy comes out. Same idea. I've got my camera, and he said yes, and I'm like, "What's your job?" And he gives me a job title, and I'm like, "What exactly is that? Explain that a little bit more." And he tells me for 4 years that he flew from Washington, D.C. to Afghanistan and loaded a giant airplane full of caskets and flew it back to Washington, D.C. and then turned around and went back to Afghanistan and loaded it again. And
for 4 years.
I'm dumbfounded, Ike. I'm staring through the camera and I'm looking at this dude. I can't even speak. Like, I'm telling you, like a full 30 seconds, I finally like grab my phone and I like get through the rest of this little interview, and I get done, and I like shove the camera to the side, and I give this dude a giant hug, and I'm like, "Are you okay? My God."
Yeah.
Like I ended up in some crazy situations, not like many, but not like some, but more than others, and I got to see what I was like in those moments and who I was in those moments. And I can tell you right now, I'm not strong enough to have done his job.
Yeah, that would
I know I'm not strong enough to have done what he did for us as a country. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
And that's the thing. Like right now, today, there is somebody that's their job. Like, the oryx hunts are like that's been this really like local thing and we're trying to blow it up and spread more, and it's been amazing. And it's because just like anything with the veterans, the stories, like you meet these guys and you find out who they are and what they've done, and you're just like, my God, like thank you.
Yeah.
Like, wow,
Yeah.
what a task that Uncle Sam had you doing. Well, I was doing my crazy shit. You were doing that?
Yeah. That's so cool.
Sign me up for 6 more months of that versus 1 day of what you were doing.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah,
So
amazing.
true.
Amazing, guys. So, yeah, that's and as my progression is gone, like that's I love the draw. I'm so happy that the draw has created an opportunity for me to kind of be in that space and do it comfortably. And I'm so excited to be doing more on our own and with the Best Defense Foundation and all of that Donnie has created. And I'm the hunting and my path is like led to all of that. Like,
Yeah.
a Red Ryder BB gun and
a dead Tweety bird.
Yeah, and bouncing BBs off of Tweety birds because it's
not
a
enough.
hand-me-down Red Ryder even, and it freaking wouldn't kill anything.
fun.
And now, and doing this, and it's fun. I'm like the most blessed guy. Like I meet people all the time from all walks, and like I'm like my story is crazier than shit, and I'm like one of the most blessed guys that I've like. It's a dream, all of it.
Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thanks for being a vet. I'll buy you a beer tonight.
I appreciate that very much. That'll just melt the awkwardness immediately. No,
Well,
it's
thank
been
you.
fun. This was super and a great idea for you guys here at the Expo. Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching today. Remember, check out the draw and check out the Best Defense.
Yeah, Best Defense Foundation. Yep.
And if you can donate money, donate time, have a good idea, get a hold of Jordan on social, and maybe you can hit that easy button and draw that lightning strike.
And because people can't find us sometimes because the draw is also apparently an architect company. Our Instagram is the best and for us, and it's We Are the Draw.
We Are the Draw.
Yep, We Are the Draw. Because somebody else already had the other one. So what do you do?
Like, I'm drawing a building. I want to draw a tag.
That's right.
Well, appreciate it again.
Cool. Thanks,
Thank
Ike.
you.
All right, buddy.